Cheddar Bay Biscuits and Gravy. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Faulkner. It's so good to see all of you here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Just to let you guys know, I am also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there every single Thursday and Sunday. So you can find me on Thursdays for the Savvy and JB show, and you can find me for the JB show on Sundays and here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a thumbs up. This helps me out very much with the algorithm, because we know that the algorithm does not like a lot of things that I got to say. That's just the way it goes. But thank you so very much for that in advance. Now, if you would like to, you can also subscribe to my Substack. Go there to jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, whenever I go make clips, or if I write any articles. You guys also have that there as well. So a blanket hello to everybody that is watching on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Rockfin, and Rumble. Unfortunately, I'm having some issues with my Facebook. I don't know what it is, but the Zuckerberg got me in a chokehold. But with that being said, what are we talking about today? It's going to be a couple of interesting stories that we're going to be discussing. Later in the show today, we're going to be covering something kind of deep. Disabled black man that was hanged. We are going to be talking about that because we have to continue to let our outrage keep us focused. So I'm going to be talking about this gentleman here and what happened with him in Mississippi. So we're going to be talking about that. But first, we'll be discussing with the homie coming in and joining. Lee Camp joins. We're going to be talking about American distrust. This is going to be a really good one. So we have host, activist, and comedian Lee Camp joining me. Good to have you back on the channel.
Thanks for having me. Man, you had a young photo of me there. Really ages you when you show everybody a photo of how I looked 10 years ago.
You know what? I had to, because you know what? We're always young on the inside. See, you have a very young spirit,
Thanks.
Even though you scream at the warmongers to get off your lawn, you still maintain that youthful appearance.
Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself. How you been?
Yeah, you're glowing, bro. You're glowing.
Thanks. I got the for those watching the visual here, I got the collapsing empire behind me, the New York City subway station.
Yeah, it looks like it needs some work, but that's what we're here for. So, Lee, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is as far as just getting your initial thoughts about the campaigns that are going on. So, of course, you have Kamala Harris with her campaign. Of course, she decided to enlist her friend Barack to basically scold people that look like me and that are the same gender as me into voting for somebody like a Kamala Harris. I just want to get your thoughts on that first, when he said basically that we're not riding with her because of her womanhood. What does that signal to you that Barack is going that route?
Well, Barack Obama has proven he'll play this role throughout his career. The people who supported him, I supported him the first time around. I was a young lad in my 20s, and I thought that he might be a little different than what we'd seen, and I was quickly proven wrong. Took about a year of Barack Obama in office before I was like, oh, they're the same party. I get it now. I get it. It was I got to thank Barack Obama for truly waking me up. I was close, but it took him to push me over the edge and go, oh, it's all the same shit. And it was an important time in my life, and I'd like to thank him for being my teacher in that. But he has proven he'll play this role again and again, and it didn't matter we learned immediately after he left office, it didn't matter whether he was in office or out of office, he was going to keep playing this role. A lot of people thought, oh, he was being held back by Congress. That's why he couldn't stop the wars. That's why he had the surge in Afghanistan. That's why he could only give us corporatized healthcare. That's why, insert your topic that you care about most here. That's why he couldn't get it done. Once he's out of the presidency, he'll be swinging for the fences, doing speaking out. Instead, they've used him. You'll recall they used him to, or rather he volunteered. I'm not saying people control him in this way, but he may have volunteered to be the one to shut down the NBA strike when the NBA players were striking to be treated better, to get better salary, all those things, to not be, for lack of a better term, treated like slaves in terms of the number of games they play, which is like unfathomable, those type of things. And he calls him up and says, it's important that you guys not strike right now. And he ends that strike. And we've seen this again and again from him. He's the person brought in, usually when it has to do with Black people in America. And he's the one who's brought in to say, no, get back into the fold, you silly folks. Run back in and support the war machine, support the death and destruction, support candidate A, B, or C, who's going to keep things exactly the way they are and keep funneling money to the billionaires while we see a genocide in Gaza. And he's just played that role before, during, and after his presidency.
So, Lee, are you telling me that it actually has more to do with policy and record?
Yeah. Am I saying that perhaps we should look at actions instead of what these folks say? Is that what it could be? Yeah. You look at what these people actually do. And, to me, the only difference between the Democrats and Republicans is it seems Obama largely waited until he finished being president to then enrich himself with the presidency. Like within 2 weeks or whatever it was of being done, he ran to Wall Street, gave one speech for something like $400,000. Trump worked on enriching himself in the presidency. So it was just it's that 2 week span is the difference between Democrats and Republicans.
Oh, man, the lines between Barry and Donnie just keeps getting blurred more and more, and we just can't tell who's who. But I want to share this as well. This is a shout out to Case Study QB for this. It's a focus group of undecided Gen Z voters. Now, of course, Lee, you and I, even though we do have a beautifully youthful appearance, we are not Gen Z, but we also look at them and go, hey, you guys seem pretty cool. Why don't you guys take down the empire with us? And they're like, you know what? Bet. So let's take a look at what they have to say. And please feel free to ask me to pause to make any points that you would like throughout this. Let's go.
Raise your hand if you are undecided still at this point. If the election were held today, who would you vote for? If you had to pick, if the election were held today, between Trump, Harris, a write-in, and not voting?
Yeah, I'm.
Hang on. Wait a minute. He didn't even mention any other third party.
Right.
Did you notice that?
That's quite common in like a lot of these New York Times polls and stuff. They just say Trump, Harris, or other or something. Basically,
Yeah.
acting like third party candidates don't exist.
That's interesting. Let's continue.
I think I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. I just can't get over what happened in 2020 and what's been reaffirmed in the debates and the general, statements made during the campaign. Not just a riot, but the alternative slate of elector schemes is a bridge too far for me.
Angelo, just if you can ask briefly, you've been, a little bit leaning Harris, and I know tonight you raised some concerns. Why are you in the write-in camp right now?
In my opinion, the more I look back into it, the more I watch the debate, the more I look into her campaign. I cannot trust her. I'm not going to vote for Trump, but the more I think about it, the more I just don't know if I can vote for her because I just do not trust her. I'm more inclined to write someone who I feel like would best represent me through my vote.
Why would this young gentleman say that he just does not trust her? Like, is there something in the water, Lee? I'm kind of curious.
I
Mean, something happened in the last year.
Yeah, that proves that these Gen Zers who looking on the screen are roughly 8 years old. That proves that they actually know more than your average 45-year-old liberal across America to not trust Kamala Harris. If you look at her entire record, basically everything she's done has been as a Republican. There's almost nothing. I mean, I don't even know what people could point to say she's not a Republican. And to me, what's funniest about this, if you're just looking at the Trump-Harris race, ignoring the third party for the moment, the funniest thing about this is Trump and Fox News and the other right-wing outlets have had to invent a fake Kamala Harris in order to have something to run against that isn't them. Like, they've had to say she's against fracking when she has done nothing but promote fracking and oil. They've had to say she's Marxist when nothing she's ever done is Marxist. They've had to say she's for open borders when the numbers show that Biden, Harris have deported more people in the last few years, like almost double what Trump deported during many of his years. They've tried to say she's anti-Israel when she has proven, and Biden has proven again and again, that they will endorse and support this genocide at every step. So they've had to invent a fake Kamala Harris to try and have something to run against that isn't just a Republican, a far right-wing Republican.
Lee, I got a just crazy visual in my head as you were explaining that. I was seeing you as one of the policy advisors for Kamala Harris, and you would have patches of hair missing from just pulling it out. Like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, she's a shit show, but so is Donald Trump. So this is what an empire, as I've got the collapsing empire on the screen behind me, this is what a collapsing empire vomits up. The term Chris Hedges is fond of using, vomits up when you're in these last stages, these last decades. That it has been gutted, it's soulless, and this is the vomitous remnants that are supposed to quote unquote lead us in this time when we should be creating a new normal. We should be creating a new normal that is not war, death, and destruction, that is sustainability, cooperation, diplomacy, justice, equality, all of the things that these two vomitous masks stand against.
Yeah. These are the malignant boils of our society. Why are we voting for them? I have no idea. Let's continue.
Aisha, how about you? You raised your hand. If you had to vote today for Harris, why Harris?
I just want to see what she will do because I know she's going to have to run again later. So I'm hoping she will be an exemplary president for this term. That's my only reason.
Okay. And Abigail, how about you?
I need to. Some people said some things tonight that motivated me to do a little bit more research about the other side to January 6th that I haven't heard about before. But the thing is, I do not want to vote for someone. I do not want to tell my children that I voted for someone that actually threatened democracy. You know what I mean? I need to analyze and think a little bit more before I just vote for Trump.
Oh, okay. So first of all, we thank everybody for participating. Absolutely no bad things to say about people who participate in these conversations. We thank you so much. But does anybody at this table need to take a deep breath? Because I do. I just do.
We've been listening to Undecideds for weeks on two-way, and it's really hard to believe that there are still people who might vote third party or try to write in. It's just such a lack of understanding about the stakes and about why that's just throwing your vote away.
That, to me, is an insult to these young people. They just don't understand. Wait a minute. Lee, do you feel that there is a deep disconnect between these millionaires sitting around a table in a $1 million studio? Is there any type of disconnect in your view?
Yeah, just slightly. I mean, it is hilarious to come back from Gen Zers who are making some solid points. I mean, they've been misled in terms of thinking that January 6th is all that matters and things like that. And the girl who had a good thought, we should not vote for something that threatens democracy, doesn't understand what's the deeper reality, which is that our democracy has been destroyed many decades ago, carefully and by moneyed interests in so many ways, so that democracy is gone. And she doesn't understand that, but her drive is a good, honest drive to care about democracy. And then you cut back to these, like you say, multimillionaires sitting around in a circle going, oh my goodness, how could Gen Zers not just get in line behind Harris? What is wrong with them? And these are the people, you know, that circle, that table, that network, MSNBC, these are the people who have manufactured consent for millions upon millions of deaths. The estimates of how many have died in the global war on terror is 6 million. And then you have the genocide in Gaza right now that they've manufactured consent for. And that's that panel. That's that circle. They are those psychopaths sitting there saying, how do these people not just believe everything we say on MSNBC? I don't understand. And even especially coming from Mika Brzezinski, the daughter of, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who essentially came up with the half of the empire's plans for the past 50 years, even though he's no longer alive. It's just hilarious. I mean, this is what the empire is. It's this fuck theater.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would say to any of the Gen Z that's watching my program right now, your desire to demand better is the logical thing to do. It does not matter what these old heads, including myself, say, because you're looking at your wallet and your bank accounts. You're looking at what's going on abroad. You're looking at what's going on here at home. And the fact that somebody would demand you or try to wave away or discount your feelings and go, well, they just don't realize what's at stake. No. The old heads don't realize what's at stake. Some, I'm not going to say all, but as somebody that's old enough to be their father, I know I look good. I'm moisturized. But as somebody who's old enough to be their father, some of them their father, I look at them and go, you're right. You're right. You're correct in your demands. You're correct in your outrage. And this is why I'm telling you, you don't have to choose either die by drowning or die by burning. There's actually a third option. Even if it's a slight choice, or even if it's a slight chance that you may get it, you rather risk that rather than either dying by drowning or dying by burning. And I just want to say that to all the young people that are watching, because what you're experiencing right now is really empire in decline. And I'd rather walk away. Look, I'd rather be a live chicken than a dead duck. So I might as well go with the people who are actually going to help keep me alive, instead of going with either the fire or the drowning.
And some other quick points on voting. First of all, I actually believe everyone should vote because there are a lot of things up for grabs that are not just the presidency. There's a lot of ballot initiatives that matter. There are local politics that are not as bought off as top politics, the federal elections. But on top of that, there's some other things people should know, especially Gen Zers who are maybe new to this. First of all, if you're not in a swing state, then you don't matter. Not on the presidency. So if you don't matter anyway on the presidency, why not vote for a third party? Support that party. Support the protest vote, especially if you're not in a swing state. We can argue about swing states in a minute if people want to, but especially if you're not in a swing state, like vote for a third party, support whatever, Green Party, Cornel West, Claudia de la Cruz, these awesome people that are running that actually have these ideas right, that actually anti-genocide, etc. And all of those things serve to grow their movements, to grow their parties, to grow their ideas. If they get 5%, if the Green Party gets 5%, it can have all these implications that are important. So there's so many reasons, especially if you're not in a swing state, to vote third party. But on top of that, there's another calculation, which I was just told about recently, and by Sam Husseini, who came up with it. I'm sure he's not the first to do it, and you can find out more about it at votepact.org. Basically what you do, that's PACT. Basically what you do is if you're one of the millions of Americans who are going to hold your nose and vote either Harris or Trump, you just find someone else in your state, family member, whatever, who's going to hold their nose and vote for the other one, Harris or Trump. And you both agree not to vote for Harris or Trump, but to vote third party. And in that way, it does not impact at all the outcome of Harris-Trump, but it again supports third parties. And if you could get millions of people across this country to make that deal with someone else, and obviously it's easiest if it's someone you trust, if it's a friend, if it's a family member, etc., that's the easiest way to do it. But if you had millions of people doing that, they're not impacting the end result, but they are impacting how many votes third parties get.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the radical in me says if you're in a swing state, go third party. Like, show them that you do not reward genocide at all.
Well, So if we have the third party debate, I mean, there's a million reasons that these two candidates are so similar on so many that it doesn't actually have an impact. So, yeah, agreed. Let's continue. Let's finish up with the liberal crew.
I just have to say, I mean, I'm just trying to find that grace in this moment. But I will say, I'm a millennial. I'm not Gen Z, so maybe I'm not the best messenger. But we all have some friends who are saying neither of these candidates fully supports, my views, and I think Gen Z comes from a generation where politics has been broken for a long time. Okay, I'm sympathetic. What I would just say is the way to build power is to start with the reality that we have. And you don't want to throw away your vote. This is a choice between two people, and that's it. Right. So are you really going to deny your neighbors Medicaid?
Oh!
What?
Oh, Lee, I hope you have some liquor in that, because I need to sit.
I love Mika Brzezinski's like just groaning while the other people no, it's these people are disgusting, and it's their job to tell people these two candidates are polar opposites. Oh, really? Are they? Then tell me how Harris is the polar opposite on oil, on climate crisis, on immigration, on actually nuclear weapons. So there's two real existential threats that within the next decade, existential to humanity. One is nuclear fallout. One is nuclear winter. Another is climate crisis. These are the two that could kill all humans or almost all humans in the next 10 years. On both of those, you have the Biden-Harris administration that has pumped more oil and gas and allowed more oil drilling and allowed more fracking than the Trump administration did. And on nuclear weapons, yes, Trump tore up several of the non-proliferation agreements with Russia. However, first of all, Biden and Harris have not done anything to re-sign any of those. But on top of that, they have spent way more on what they call, refurbishing or renovating our nuclear arsenal, but is basically creating more nuclear weapons to actually further push us towards some sort of nuclear Armageddon. They also push us towards that nuclear Armageddon with the proxy war in Ukraine. They also push us towards that with facilitating Israel's several wars and genocide. So saying that these people are different is you're being absolutely illogical, absolutely irrational if you look at the legit facts and not some kind of emotional anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, let's go to this, because I wanted to make sure I get this article in before you take off. This is out of the Jerusalem Post, and I want to juxtapose this with the election. The headline says, U.S. threatens Israel, resolve humanitarian crisis in Gaza, or face an arms embargo. It says failure to rectify the situation would lead to consequences for Israeli aid under American law, the White House said. So this is coming directly from the White House. It says the U.S. told Israel that it would impose an arms embargo on the Jewish state if it does not resolve the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It says the White House expressed deep concern over the deterioration of the humanitarian situation in Gaza in recent weeks and called for urgent steps within the next month to reverse this trend. Lee, let me ask you this. Is this a legitimate move to quell the suffering in Gaza, or is this a political move? Which one do you see?
They have said some form of this many times over the past year of genocide. And by the way, for those who don't know me, I say that as an anti-Zionist Jew, and there are millions of us around the world. So don't pretend that Israel equals all Jews, which is what Israel wants you to think. But they've said some portion of this or some kind of this for months and months. It's a red line to go into southern Gaza. It's a red line to go into Rafah. It's a red line to not let us get aid in. It's a red line to attack in this way or that way. They keep throwing these red lines, and after that, you are so out. Oh, we are not going to even answer your phone calls after that. And it has all been bullshit. At no point have they proven that any of this is true, that they ever will stop these every 36 hours shipments of bombs to rain down on children to commit genocide. At no point have they shown it to be true. In fact, stories have just broken recently that Blinken was had like his own office in the so-called Defense Department headquarters in Israel as they were coming up with these policies of dropping bombs on aid shipments. Some of them became quite famous stories, like the World Central Kitchen one. And Blinken was approving, is sitting there in the, like literally physically there, approving of these policies to bomb aid organizations. Anyway, the point is, I'd have to see it. I'd have to see some kind of action that this is real. At every point, the Biden-Harris administration have shown that they will not get in the way of this genocide. And in fact, at the debates, what do you have? You have her arguing with Trump and Biden arguing with Trump in the first debate as to who supports this genocide the most. I support them. I want to kill innocent people more. No, you're not going to kill innocent people at all. Oh, no, I love killing innocent people. Like, that was the debate. It was not who's going to stop the genocide.
Yeah. And speaking of which, what happened at that hospital as of recently where children and people were being burned alive. Look, this is the George Floyd moment, meaning you're seeing the carnage in front of you. Are you going to allow this carnage to continue? You have both parties that are still promising to allow this to continue. So there are third options, and there is also options to organize. Are we just going to sit by and allow this to keep happening? Because if they're going to do it to them, like I said, if they're going to allow it to brown people abroad, they're going to do it to people like us here.
There is a fourth option. You can gouge your eyes out with ice cream scoops. So I'm thinking of that.
I mean, as a fan of Rocky Road, that's not a bad option. But yeah. With that being said, I just wanted to thank you, and I want to make sure that we'll be very respectful of your time. But I also wanted to highlight that you also have a podcast. So I want to make sure I get into this as well. So if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few older podcasts. There's the Lee Camp Show and Government Secrets and some others. But I launched a brand new one, which is just my comedy stuff. Because, for people just tuning in to, they're your fans and they've never seen my stuff. I'm sure I did not come off as hilarious on this interview because most of what I do, or a lot of what I do, is live streams every week. By the way, that's people want to check that out. It's YouTube, Rumble. It's called Dangerous Ideas. But I did launch a new podcast that is just my comedy segment. So for people who are looking to, to get some laughs out of these issues rather than just tears, or maybe it could be tears of laughter, but it's called Just Comedy. You probably have to search Just Comedy with Lee Camp to find it, but it's on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms, totally free to listen. And I'd love for people to just give it a try. Just to, see what you think. There's nothing to lose, completely free. And if you like it, give it a rating or click the bell icon so Spotify will let you know when a new one comes out, etc. Yeah, that's all my comedy segments. And then everything else is on YouTube, Rumble, called Dangerous Ideas.
All right. Thank you so very much for coming on. Please do not be a stranger. I know it took us a while to get you back on because you were doing some traveling and you also are very busy as well with family. So thank you so very much for gracing us with your presence and adding and elevating the conversation discourse.
Thank you. Always an excellent show, and solidarity, and don't give up, James. You're awesome. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee. I'll see you later.
Later.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. So look, as far as it goes right now, we have to continue to show what is going on between Harris and Trump and really to show the similarities between them. I put it this way. If I have a pile of doo-doo and I put chocolate sprinkles on it, does that make it ice cream? So if I have a pile of doo-doo and doo-doo with sprinkles, they may look slightly different, but in real substance, it's all shit. So with that being said, thank you very much to Lee Camp for joining me. And if you have not already, then, do the damn thing and go ahead and give the stream a like. So thank you very much for that. We're going to go into the chat really quick. And with that being said, I'm going to look into the Rumble. We got a few chats in the Rumble and see if we have any Rumble rants as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a look-see. Let me share the screen because I don't have that feature just yet. All right. So, we got some friends in here. So, Ellern Dubner says Jill Stein 2024. Yes, I am also, full disclosure, I am the co-press director for the Jill Stein 2024 campaign. So if you guys notice there's a bias, there is. Indie Left News says JB and Lee. Good to see you, Indie Left. Indie Left is on all the socials. Go ahead and give them a follow. They also do a lot of great work on their channel. It says, who are these people? Indie Media Award honorees. Thank you so very much for that as well. Let's see. Also, yes, free Jeremy Lafredo. He is a gray zone journalist that has been captured by Israel. From what I heard lately, he's actually out of prison, but he cannot leave the imaginary state. So please make sure to give Jeremy Lafredo some support and get him home. So yes, pardon and free. Hang on. No, sorry. Let me see. Pardon and free Jesse Red, free Jess Rez. Yes, pardon and free Leonard Peltier, Pavel Bogdarov. Pardon Trump. I don't know about that, but pardon Steve Donsinger. Yes. I don't know about the Trump one. You may have lost me there. He's a war criminal. I mean, he needs to be getting on war crimes. But outside of that, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So let's go into the rest of the chat and let's before we get into our next subject. So just to say a few hellos, let me see. We have Dan 1999. What is that? Dragons and fish. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad to see it. Thank you very much. We have Bryce Smith coming in saying morning JB, morning everyone. That's right. It's the morning for you. Roger Meadows coming in and say couldn't answer the poll just now hearing about this. We're going to get into that. So if you guys have not, you guys want to answer that poll pretty much towards the end of the next segment. I really appreciate that. Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, everyone. Hey, Jaybefaunt, good to see you in here. We have Robin Ryan says, good day from the left coast. The left coast is the best coast. Good to see you. Even though I'm on the East Coast, I still have love for the West Coast. All righty then. Now, let's get into a couple of more, and then we will finish up. Let me see. So we have Holly says, I'm in my early 60s and I'll be voting PSL, Claudia de la Cruz, and Karina Garcia. Cool. I like to see people going third party. All right. We have Tanisha says, I can swim. I can't. Oh, by the way, teach your kids how to swim. Please. It will save lives. Please teach your kids how to swim. You can start at like a year. Teach them how to swim. Especially you Black folks, especially if y'all in the inner city, if you can get to a pool. If you can get to a pool, right? Teach your kids how to swim. Please save their lives. Let me see. Terry Connolly says, voting blue or red is voting for genocide. Agreed. Green Z says, help reach and maintain that 5%. Yes, this will also help them give federal funding and make it more easier for them to be able to get more votes in the future. We got to play the long game here, people. Just like the GOP, they played the long game. Why can't we? Right? See. Lana says she's a millennial, so she remembers how evil Dick Cheney is. Right? Why are some of these millennials suddenly having selective amnesia about somebody like Dick Cheney? You know, Mr. Halliburton, Mr. Million Iraqis murdered. We don't forget. Like Pepperidge Farm, we remember. My goodness. Zizemborska says, what a new and innovative argument. Yeah, these darn kids, they just don't understand. When in reality, it's like, nah, you guys have allowed them to argue or allowed yourselves to be convinced away from your empathy. It's sad. So last one we'll do. David says, both parties unwavering support for burning medical tents alive. And that's what they stand for. This is why I'm post-duopoly. I do not support either party. And people can come in my mentions and talk about, oh, but Trump. And yeah, the funny thing is, why did Trump, if Trump is so bad, then why in the world would he give $5,000 to Kamala Harris when she was running? What did he see in her that he wanted to give her money for? All right. So let's get into, let me do the patron shout out first. Can we do that? Yeah, let's do that. All right. I just want to give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon, because without you guys, I would not be able to do the work that I am doing. You guys literally keep the lights on. So thank you very much. Let's get into the tiers so you guys know what's what. So here are the tiers. All right. So we have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And welcome new members, Trauma Queen, DFO, Barbara Finney, and Sabrina Beard. Thank you so very much for becoming members. And just to let you guys know, in addition to and furthermore, my channel is demonetized. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can support it via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you so much, and it's linked down in the description below. All right, let's get into the next subject. This is going to be a heavy one, but it's going to be equally important. Let's get into this one. Disabled black man that was hanged. This was a very sad story, and I want to get into this because not a lot of people are talking about it, and I think it's important that we highlight stories like this because we need to. You know, as a Black and disabled man, this story really resonated with me because I know what it's like to feel overlooked. I know what it's like to feel neglected, especially by society, to feel like you're a burden. And this weighs heavy, especially when you're a man, because there's so many societal and engendered expectations that's placed upon you. And then on top of that, you have law enforcement that already looks at you a certain way because of your skin color. But they also tend to do the same thing to you when you're disabled. So you have a couple of things that are going against you. There was a gentleman that was recently found dead, mysteriously. And I really want to get into the story because I think that it's important that we highlight these so that these don't fall on deaf ears. So this is out of the root. What just happened here? Okay. It says disabled Alabama Black man was found hanging from a tree. His family believes police were involved. The blurb says the family of Dennoriss Richardson alleges Alabama police were behind his hanging. Yes. In the year of our Lord 2024, we are still talking about Black men being lynched. Remember, I talked about Black men being mysteriously murdered a few weeks ago. And yet this still keeps happening. But America's not a racist country. Let's get into it, shall we? So, this is him. All right. Dennoriss Richardson says about 8 months after a Black man filed a police brutality lawsuit against an Alabama police department, he was found hanging by rope. Is it a coincidence? His family doesn't think so. On Wednesday of October 9th, 6 days ago, attorney Roderick Van Daniel filed a motion demanding that the Sheffield Police Department hand over body camera and video related to an interaction between 38-year-old Dennoriss Richardson and several officers from earlier this year. Says the filing is part of a February civil lawsuit alleging Richardson was subject to unconstitutional arrest and violence at the hand of local officers, despite him being disabled. The suit claims Richardson was being harassed by the department from November to December of 2022. So let's move on. It says, according to the incidents, the suit claims that officers viciously beat Richardson, compromised his asthma by spraying mace in his face, and denied him food while he was detained inside a jail cell. In one incident, the suit claimed one of the officers yelled, "Nobody can help you," at Richardson while he was strapped to a chair where he had been restrained for 3 hours. After most interactions, the suit claims Richardson was falsely charged with assault. You know, when we talk about defunding the police, it's not talking about how we just want to get police away. We just want to get rid of them. And then people are committing atrocities left and right without any type of law enforcement whatsoever. We who say defund the police, we actually believe in real public safety. Part of that public safety means getting goons and thugs with badges and guns out of our faces so that we can actually live. We are more devoted to public safety than they are, because they're the ones who are making us unsafe. And every single time they see somebody that looks like me, apparently we're somebody dangerous to society. So dangerous that they're willing to end our lives. For some reason, they think that our skin may be made of Teflon, where they can, fire bullets at us and it will just, not even affect us. But then reality sets in when they see us bleeding on the ground and the light fades from our eyes. And then they realize, oh snap, this was an actual human being. Then they get their little vacation, their paid vacation for a few days off so that they can focus on their mental health while their buddies investigate them. Let's continue with this story. It says Richardson's wife, Leanne, tells AL.com that the Sheffield police harassed him his whole life. By the time he filed the lawsuit, the cops had just arrested him again for on-drug charges. Richardson's wife alleged that they offered to drop the charges if he dropped the suit. Richardson refused. Hang on. He was suing them. And they tried to get him to drop the charges, to drop the suit if they drop the charges. This is mafia stuff. This is organized crime. That's what this is. They ain't no bones about it. If you're going to sit there and arrest somebody, especially under false pretenses, and then say, you know what, we can drop these charges if you drop your suit. Everybody always wonders what would happen if the mafia actually ran the country. Baby, it's already happening. This is the result. Let's continue. It says, however, his determination for justice may have just been a grisly overshadowing of what would come of Richardson months later. He was found dead. Richardson's wife told AL.com he was let out on probation following the arrest, but decided to turn himself in after learning he would have to serve his across the country, forcing him to move from his 5 children. She told reporters after he left the house, she stopped hearing from him. On September 26, Richardson was reported missing. 2 days later, Richardson was found dead. He was hanging by a rope on the porch of an abandoned home near the Mississippi line, where his family said he had no business being, according to a court filing. Richardson's family still haven't received his death certificate. The filing said, however, the autopsy ordered by the Colbert County District Attorney's Office ruled his death a suicide. Quote, we spoke to a family members that said that the last time they had spoken to Mr. Richardson, he had been depressed, worried about his future as far as the charges he was looking at. He was just down and out. He was giving some of his property away. It appeared to be an apparent suicide. That was from Sheriff Eric Ballantyne. Do you believe that? Do you believe that this was self-harm? Take the poll. Take the poll. Because a black man hanging himself like that? Do I look like Boo Boo the Fool to you? I'm going to tell you right now, these police officers that keep going, well, they hang themselves on a tree or they hang themselves at a shack. That's how they did self-harm. A black man? In America? Mm-mm. No. I personally do not believe that. I call BS. Suicide or foul play? Richardson's family doesn't think he died by suicide. Now, the effort to get justice for police brutality has taken a new shape as they investigate if the cops had anything to do with his death. This is from his mother. My son was joyful. He didn't have any mental issues. He would never kill himself. He would not hurt himself. That was Benita, Richardson's mother. She said he really was in fear for his life. I think it was a homicide. The family is currently waiting for the results of a private autopsy to return, which could take months per the report. Meanwhile, the motion filed Wednesday requests body camera video and jail surveillance footage from incidents prior to Richardson's death. The filing alleges that the footage was previously denied to Richardson. Says the suit names Sheffield Police Department officers Brent Davids, Darian Fountain, Billy Hall, Seneca Butcher, and former officer Max Dotson as defendants. Dotson was fired after being convicted in the assault of another black man while off duty in 2022, the report says. In regards to Dotson, he may have been a police officer, but he was no angel. You see how we can flip that around? Watch people go, oh, but he has served in jail, so therefore, why are we putting our hands up over this guy who apparently harmed himself? They said the same thing about George Floyd. And yet we watched in 4K an officer kneeling on his neck for over 8 minutes and 40 seconds. How many times have we in this country have seen someone who looks like us suddenly go missing, find out they're dead, and then the police go, well, maybe they harmed themselves, or maybe they did this horrible thing, or maybe it was an animal attack, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, we see what happened. And by the way, we saw what happened with Sonia Massey. If it wasn't for those body cam footages, would we have believed the officer? I don't trust them. You've seen what they did in front of the cameras. Can you imagine what they do when there's no camera footage? If they are supposed to be representing the state, if they are agents of the state, then the more scrutiny has to be on them, because they're supposed to be the ones that enforce the law. So therefore, they should be under heavier scrutiny than us. And yet, because of the way we look, we're suddenly under heavier scrutiny? No. We got to flip that around. We got to turn that around. This is why I've had people from the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity on this channel? Because why in the world do they have more immunity than American citizens? It does not make sense. They're the ones that are supposed to be providing the example, and yet they don't do it at all. Why? Because their original objective never changed. Slave catching still exists. Let me calm down. Because this type of atrocities should not be happening. Not at this juncture of history. This man should still be alive. This man should not have, we should not be having to say his name. I should not know Dennoriss Richardson. I should not know that name. He should be just living a boring ass life in Alabama and just living happy without me knowing who he is. Now, like I said, he was also a disabled man. I am also a disabled man. And there's a lot that goes into how we're treated by law enforcement. I want to get into this article here. So, this is from NAMI, Illinois. The National Alliance on Mental Illness says half of people killed by police have a disability. Half of people killed by police have a disability. Half. Let's get into it. All right. Says almost half of the people who die at the hands of police have some kind of disability, according to a new report, as officers are often drawn into emergencies where urgent care may be more appropriate than lethal force. Says the report published by the Ruderman Family Foundation, a disability organization, proposes that while police interactions with minorities draw increasing scrutiny, disability and health considerations are still neglected in media coverage and law enforcement policy. Quote, police have become the default responders to mental health calls. Says they propose that people with psychiatric abilities are presumed to be dangerous to themselves and others in police interactions. I also would like to present how police deal with people who are neurodivergent as well. People who may be on the autism spectrum, right? And people who may be autistic who are Black are underrepresented, especially Black females are underrepresented on the autism spectrum. And so instead of calling police, why aren't we actually having mental health professionals and counselors coming to make house calls instead? But they don't want to do that because they want the money to go to police. Why would I use a phone to hammer in a nail? Could it possibly drive the nail in? It could, but is it built for it? It is not. What if I crack the screen? What if I damage the contents on the inside because I try to hammer in a nail with my phone? It's going to crack the screen. It's going to damage the contents. So therefore, it is not equipped to do so, even though it might drive in the nail. You need a hammer to drive in the nail. Therefore, you need the appropriate tool for the appropriate issue. If it is a mental health issue, then you need the appropriate type of responders to respond to the situation. This is not a crime issue. It is a mental health issue. So therefore, why are we using law enforcement to enforce a mental health issue? It doesn't make sense. It's not congruent. And yet, this is what happens. This is what happens day in and day out, and is exacerbated by race and class. Let's continue with this article. It says the report wades directly into the racial debates over policing, noting that while coverage of police brutality cases has understandably focused on race, that lens can also obscure how disability also factors into police interactions. Take one of the most discussed recent police brutality cases, the Chicago police shooting of Laquan McDonald, a Black teenager killed while acting erratically and holding a knife. Prosecutors took the unusual step of charging an officer with first-degree murder, knowing McDonald did not pose a lethal threat to officers who had surrounded him. When the video of the shooting was released, it sparked the resignation of Chicago's police chief and a national debate over race and policing. There was far less focus, however, on McDonald's death. According to a later investigation by the Chicago Tribune, McDonald suffered from PTSD and complex mental health problems. Let me tell you guys something. Living in the hood can give you PTSD. Why? Because people are committing crimes of opportunity and crimes of desperation. Why? Because the economics make it that way. So of course we have PTSD. Of course we have trauma. And of course it may cause us to act out in ways that are unconventional. And it is due to the economic situation that we're subject to. And it is not our fault that the economic situation and the system that we're in causes us to have to commit crimes of opportunity and desperation. Because people will say, oh, well, they didn't have to do this. They could have just lived life and go on the straight and narrow. When in reality, going on the straight and narrow ain't helping us neither. How many of y'all who are going on the straight and narrow are able to afford your rent? How many of us who are going on the straight and narrow are able to afford food? How many of us that are going on the straight and narrow are able to afford our transportation? You're struggling, aren't you? Makes you want to do a couple of unethical things, doesn't it? Imagine living in the hood where you can, if you just sell a couple of bricks, you can actually pay that rent. You can help pay your mama's rent. Because there's crimes of desperation and lack of opportunity. Then on top of that, these schools, they're underfunded because of the issue of property tax. Because guess what? Property tax is what pays for the school's funding. Therefore, the schools in poor neighborhoods are underfunded, meaning the education goes down, meaning that the kids do not get an adequate education. And if the kids aren't getting an adequate education, then guess what? Can they actually live on to do better economically? No, it does not happen that way. And I will quote this. It's like the old quote says, if a flower fails to bloom, You fix the environment in which the flower grows, not the flower. Meaning, you need to fix the environment first. The environment that we are in is an economic system that is not conducive for us to actually thrive. This means that capitalism needs to go, because it thrives on people being poor and impoverished in order for them to allow themselves to be exploited by the very rich and well-connected. That's how it works. And then those of us that are poor and impoverished, guess what they do? They point at you and look at other workers and go, see this person who's out in the street, see this person who's living in poverty. If you don't get exploited by me, or if you don't accept my exploitation of you, then you're going to end up just like them. And this is exactly what's happening. Because they want you to see the poor folks that are asking for change on the side of the road. Because then that means that you're going to sit there and go, yes, boss, to more exploitation. This is exactly what it means. And this is why you'll agree to not get that raise, because you don't want to get fired, or you'll stick with that job, and just because you need that health care, but you're still getting abused by your bosses, or you're not getting the type of money it takes in order to afford a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Or it forces you to have to go to that Second Harvest food bank to get that box of food because you can't afford to go to the grocery store. You can't even afford to go to a Save-A-Lot or an Aldi. That's what it is. This is the system and how it works. And a lot of people don't want to realize that. A lot of people don't want to talk about it because they think that, oh, well, you're the reason why you're broke, the reason why you're poor, it's a moral failing. No, it's a systemic failing. It is not your fault that you are impoverished in this country. It is not your fault that you're poor in this country. It is a systemic problem. If a flower fails to grow, you fix the environment in which the flower grows, not the flower. Maybe it has a little too much acidity. Maybe you need to add a little bit of base. Maybe the flower is not the roots are not going deep enough. Maybe you need to put it in a bigger pot. Maybe, just maybe, it needs more sunlight. Maybe you need to give it more water, but you need to fix the environment. Let's finish up. That reality may be relevant to the conduct the night of his death and the ways police may have de-escalated the interaction. According to law enforcement experts, it is crucial that officers precisely evaluate the problems a suspect may be experiencing. Officers are action-oriented people. That's from Jim Kavanaugh. He says the training always has to be a slow evaluation, if possible. If other mechanisms to help people with disabilities or mental illness have failed, Kavanaugh suggested, often it's police who end up facing that breakdown in an emergency scenario. Every crisis in this society always gets dumped in front of the officer. I say, then stop dumping it in front of the officer. Let's reroute those funds away from police and start giving it to different aspects of our community that would actually help. Let's say hypothetically you support police. Then why in the world are you so willing to dump on them every single case that is not need of a police officer? Why are you making them the gophers of our society? If you support police, why are you putting that all on them? Why are you putting more on their plate than they can handle? If you support police. If you truly care about police, then you should be for defunding them too. Because you'll actually be helping them. Because they shouldn't have as much on their plate. So I just wanted to highlight this because a lot of us don't talk about the implications in regards to people who are disabled and they're dealing with police. And then it is exacerbated, like I said, with race and class as well. These are all factors that play a role, right? And we need to talk about this more often. And these are some of the symptoms of the system that must be addressed. And we have to take care of the underlying cause of these symptoms. The underlying cause, a lot of the times, is the economic situation. In a system where it thrives on exploitation, these are the symptoms that come up. These are the symptoms that are presented to you. These are the symptoms that are in your midst. Because people get PTSD because of the crimes in the area. The crimes in the area are caused by crimes of desperation and lack of opportunity. And the crimes of desperation and lack of opportunity are called because they're desperate economically and they don't have the opportunities. Well, how do we fix that? You have to take the profit seeking and the overexploitation out of the picture. So then by that point, you don't have another Dennoriss Richardson. You don't have another Laquan McDonald. You don't have another Sonia Massey or George Floyd. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. I'm going to check and take a look at the poll. Let me see. Let me go to the poll. Where is it? Let me see. View channel. That would help. All right. And then we can take a look at the poll results. All right. So let me enlarge this. Okay. All right, everybody. So out of 61 votes, says, do you think the police murdered Dennoriss Richardson? 89% said yes. The no's are 0% and not sure said 11. I rest my case. Let's go into the chats. I'm going to check on the Rumble first to check and see if we have any Rumble rants and other chats there. All right, so it looks like we're good on the Rumble side. Let's check the Rockfin side. We're good on the Rockfin side. All right, let's check on the other side. Now, I forgot to take that down. My bad. Teresa, you ain't said nothing but the truth. Teresa says a black man would not do this. It's disrespectful to the legacy of his race. Yep, bingo. Andy says, so why was he brought to the attention of the police to begin with? Drug, car thefts, pimping. A lot of times it'll be somebody just acting erratic. And it could be because of mental health issues or something, a mental health episode, and people will call the cops, and the cops will come And because they will see it as a mental health issue, they think that people who have mental illness are more dangerous, when in reality, on average, people who have mental health issues are actually less dangerous, but they don't think that. And so then we'll get taken in. Or sometimes it just happens because we're walking while Black, we're driving while Black, we're sleeping while Black, we're eating while Black. This is how it happens. Sometimes it's just because you're Black. $60, $70 years ago, try being a young Black man and you whistle at a white woman and see what happens. Whistling. What? Is that considered a crime? Apparently back then it was, because then they would drag your ass behind a truck. So yeah, sometimes it's not always, this stuff like drugs, car theft. And even if it was drugs, hang on, why are we treating a health issue with law enforcement? Why does the drug war exist? You may want to ask the advisor to Richard Nixon for that one. Boy, oh boy. Sorry to this person, but I don't read Spanish. Marie says he looks very similar to you. Yeah, it's sad. Jacqueline says police aren't held accountable in too many cases. Yep. Ty G says the problem is the drugs they use to treat the mentally ill, which is exacerbated mental illness, especially with paired with alcohol. I am not a mental health professional. With that being said, sometimes our mental health is affected by the system in which we live in. Not always. Sometimes it's just genetic, and that's how it happens, right? Sometimes it just happens, right? Like for me, I'm on kidney dialysis. My kidney issues are not hereditary. It's just how my body just did it when I was little. But with that being said, we could alleviate a lot of these issues in our society if we actually had a system that was more egalitarian, equitable, and equal. So people won't have as many bouts of depression. Will depression still exist? Yes. Will different mental health issues still exist? Yes. But will it be at the same rate as it is now? Will anxiety be at the rate that it is now? Will depression be at the rate that it is now? Right? I argue no. It would be at a much lower level, which will be more manageable for us. And, when it comes to changing the system, I think that's one big thing. But also, we need a healthcare system that does not have profit as a goal. So then we will use not just medications, but also different avenues to be able to treat people with mental health issues. And also, I think that mental health professionals should be seen just like we see our general practitioners, our general physicians. You should see a mental health professional every 6 months. I don't care how happy you are. Every single human in this country should be able and encouraged to go see a mental health professional, every 6 months just to check in. because ultimately, this is what's necessary for us to maintain a good human being. Like, for instance, just because you have a really good working car doesn't mean it does not need maintenance. Your body needs maintenance. Your mind needs maintenance. We got to keep it working, and we got to keep checking on things in order to make sure they're working properly. Sometimes you may get so used to that car, that wheel getting stiff, that you need somebody to go in there who's a mechanic and go, wait, your wheel's a little stiff. Oh, really? I got so used to it that I didn't notice. And so then they actually do some maintenance and the wheel is a little bit looser. It feels a little bit better. This is the same thing when it comes to us humans. We have a system, a society, where we only get help when we are at the worst possible moment ever. Instead of, oh, your cholesterol is getting a little high and your triglycerides are a little high, we may need to adjust your diet a little bit so that you're staying on the right track. Instead, no, we don't go to a doctor to adjust that early on. We go right when we have a heart attack. Why? Because the economic situation. Because we can't afford to at that point in time until we're forced to. Same thing with mental health. This is one of the issues. And then maybe then we wouldn't need as many medications, because therefore, if it's not driven by profits, then there's no kickbacks for medication. And there's no rush to produce different medications. So therefore, we could actually do it outside the profit motive and have medications that are more better for human beings. Or we can mix natural medicine as well as modern medicine together, research Eastern and Western medicine together to see what actually works. And it doesn't need to be driven by profit. It's just driven by taking care of people. Corona Ursa says, as a female autistic, I am not surprised. Lauren says, one of the simplest but best pieces of wisdom available is to ask how someone got to be the way they are. Asking how invites empathy. Ooh, Lauren, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Empathy is what will save this planet. Anti-capitalist Lead says, join us in solidarity. Well, I mean, you already caught me with the name. Sure, I'm in. Amy L. Sachs says, if you're poor and can't stay on meds, that also creates... Oh! Who are all these beautiful people coming into my chat with all these bangers? You guys are great. Okay, so, or you think you're better and stop the meds because you lack good counseling. This happens to someone I knew. He took his own... Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Amy. But you bring out really good point. Thank you very much for this. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Roger Meadow said, JB, how you enjoying the Lever Master Plan? Dude, I haven't gotten the chance to look at anything, dude. I had dialysis yesterday. Then after I got home from dialysis yesterday, I was asleep. And then after that, I had to meet with somebody in the background for RBN to do RBN stuff. Then I had to plan this late at night. I didn't get to bed till 1 o'clock this morning. Then I had to get back up. Then I had to do work with the campaign. I'm gonna be real with you. I just do not have I just don't have the time right now. Sometimes, and even then, maybe while I'm at dialysis, it depends on how I'm feeling, but it's a lot, man. I won't have more free time until November-ish, mid-November. Let me see. Fu O says, great advice, JB. Entirely agree. No one does not benefit from some time with therapy or other mental health services. Yep, absolutely. So, with that being said, it is time for me to head out. Yeah, it's been a long day, but I hope you guys are doing well. As far as mental health goes, just realize that you matter. You matter immensely. Don't think for a second that you don't. And if you forget that, that's okay too. We're human beings. But we gotta realize that we matter. You know, you mean so much to each person. You indirectly also help us to keep going. Or you directly help us to keep going. Either way, we're happy that you're still here with us. So, with that being said, I want to thank Lee Camp for joining me earlier today. That was a great conversation. I hope to be able to have more conversations with him in the near future. Excuse me. And yeah, so do what you can to push for a more better system. And even if you don't vote for either the red or blue fascists, you don't want to vote for them. Remember that there are also ballot initiatives for your state that are also very important. In some states, there's also judges, right? City council, you know, comptrollers, many different people. And take a look at who they are and what they stand for. And if there's something you can't jive with, then find somebody else. And there's nobody, then you can leave that part blank. But try to research before the election. It's in 3 weeks, if you do feel like voting. But the most important thing, if you don't vote at all, or if you do vote, organize. Get with the organization to do mutual aid. Get with an organization to do more on the ground and build your community together. That's the best thing you can possibly do. Because ultimately, we save us. No politician is going to save us. None that even know who I'm going to vote for. You have to depend on you. You have to come together with your community, right? And if you are deciding to vote third party, use their policy positions in order to communicate with your people in the community to say, even if this person doesn't get elected, we need to give this policy to ourselves without them. If somebody has Medicare for all, then I guess we're going to have to do it ourselves. Whether that's through a ballot initiative or you start doing healthcare for your neighbors, you know, for free. If you're a nurse, a tech, a doctor, start doing healthcare for your neighbors, just like what the Black Panther Party did. You want to help people with food, start helping to grow food in your own neighborhood and start delivering it to people who are in need in your neighborhood. Do the same thing with housing. Same thing. If you're a lawyer, can you help out some people pro bono? But you can do mutual aid. It is within your power. Just realize you are a powerful person and you can help change and improve the world. So water your plants and water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them. Drink them if you got them. If you ain't got them, then watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary, and read because reading is fundamental. I just want to thank you guys for watching. It's been such a wonderful day. And mwah, forehead kisses. I will see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for Savvy and JB this Thursday on RBN. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further so I can keep bringing you content, that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.